So I've set up overhead on a component that gets released on a work order. So in order to do this, the setting is done on the product site record of the component. So each component that will be used on the BOM will have to have this set up this way. So I just set up a test BOM with one product called Z-Child. And under the cost tab, under the overhead, we have overhead calculation on the movement type. So you can select different movement types to add overhead to a material. So whether it's a miscellaneous receipt, supplier receipt, work order receipt, work order issue, subcontract issue. In our case, we want to use work order issue. So what this means is when you consume a component on a work order, that's what this is. So we give a description. You don't need to include lower level overhead. It's not relevant, but you need this overhead code in here. So once we jump to here, we look at the setup of this overhead code, and this is basically set add percent of base. Overhead application is stock issue. That's important. Formula base is amount. So we then have to create this category, which basically has dimensions. If we want default, we can put it in there. It just needs to know if you're using dimensions, how to apply those to the overhead cost. So you don't have to do anything in here, but this has to exist. So then we come in here and we want to stick to formula A. You can have multiple formulas compounded or whatever you want. In our case, trigger meaning document, that's the work order. So formula A, basically you have these formulas in here. Formula types has to be an overhead cost type. I made this one called MW material overhead for work order tracking, and it's just a very simple formula, 0.10, which is 10%. So it'll basically calculate 10% of the materials as the overhead cost. So now that that is set up, you don't need to change anything, so this setup is proper. So now we can go and look at the costs here, the actual stock costs. So right now my average cost is $1.50, and I've got 99 in stock. So I'm using average cost in this situation. Average cost is, or actual cost is the only way this applies. If you're using standard cost, your actuals will apply, but you'll get a variance. So, all right. Now, if I go into the work order, I created a work order for, this is my parent product. So the Z-Test parent, I have a BOM that has just the one quantity of the child on it. Expected stock, I'm going to make one on this work order. So here's my work order, basically for this product, and you'll see it's going to use quantity 1 of this component Z-Child, which we just looked at the setup. Alright, so we get a provisional cost calculation when the work order is created. You have to tell it what to use for provisional cost. The default is standard. I used actual, and that's how I get the provisional cost inquiry in here. You'll see that that's supposed to be $1.50. Maybe I'm on the wrong work order. Alright, so this is my provisional cost. You see I have $1.50 in materials, and overhead is 15 cents, which is 10%. So my total cost is here. You can see the graph. And that's how we set up the product.